Hi there, I'm Dave at Dractio.org with another episode showing you how to build applications in JamBones using Node-RED. In this episode I'm going to show you how to build speech-driven applications. Now you've got two choices for building speech-driven applications in JamBones. You can use the native gather verb and the associated node in Node-RED, since we're going to be building it in Node-RED, to build speech applications right in Node-RED. You can also use Google's Dialogflow. So you can have a call come into JamBones and have JamBones connected to Dialogflow and execute a voice bot that you've created on Dialogflow. Both are useful scenarios. Dialogflow is great for slot filling and more complex scenarios that benefit from an AI-driven bot. But sometimes you want to do some very simple voice-driven command stuff, and you can do that using the gather command, and I'm going to show you how. Let's build a very simple app. Let's assume we've got a call routing kind of app. People are calling in from different states. We're going to ask them what state they're calling from, and then we're going to route the call accordingly. All right, let's build it. Okay, let's build our app. So as always, we're going to start with a webhook in, webhook out. We're using the gather in this case. So we'll do that. And we want to play a prompt here. Let's say, in order to route your call properly, please say the name of the US state you are calling from. Now let's give it some hints. We don't have to, but I'm going to create a flow variable called hints, which will be a bunch of state names. English is good. We're using speech. Okay. We are done there. Oh, not quite done there. We need a callback. So the action hook will be state-response. So let's have another webhook. Call this one state/response. And we'll need another webhook out, but we can just connect to the same one. Now the first time through, let's just have a look at the payload that we get. Let's not do anything with it yet, so I'm just going to connect a debug node up to it, and I'm going to debug message.call because, as you know, it's the message.call property that has the properties. Now let's see, I can see that red box means I didn't configure the webhook for that. Let's have the initial webhook be /dial by state. Only thing left is to set up my flow variable for hints. To do that, I am going to have some one-time code that's called to run a JavaScript function to initialize a variable. So I can use the inject tab for that. I'm just going to say inject once. So when the flow is loaded, that will happen. And we'll execute a JavaScript function. And let's call it initialize states. And we'll put in some code here, a list of state names. Okay, so all I've done is created an array of states where each element is an object with a property name, which is the state name, and the phone number. In all cases, I'm going to route it to my SIP phone, but we could route it to different PSTN numbers, mobile numbers, SIP devices, whatnot. And then I'm going to create my hints variable there, which is a comma-separated list of state names. I'm just putting the states through a map function to get the name out, and then comma, joining them with that, comma separate. And setting two flow variables. One is the comma-separated hints string. The other is this states object. Okay, we should be ready now to deploy and test. Now let's make sure, we've got to create an application on JamBones and point a phone number on it. directory. Oops, that's not quite right. JamBones.us style by directory. Book status will be the usual. And we are good, so we've got the application. Let's point a phone number at it. And we're good to go. All right, let's go back here and let's see. Again, the point of this first one is to see what we get back in the state response. So let's dial in, try it out. Dial by state. Oh, I've got the name wrong. So I'm calling it dial by state over there. Over here, I'm calling it dial by directory. That's not good. Dial by state. Save that.
In order to route your call properly, please say the name of the U.S. state you are calling from.
California. All right, now here's our debug node, and we can see we've got a speech object, all the usual stuff, plus, because this is the action hook for gather, we have a speech object. And this is basically the same speech object that's returned from Google Speech. So we can see in there we've got an alternatives array. We've got one entry. It's got a confidence of 98% and a transcript of California. Looks good. So now I've got that. I know what I'm going to be dealing with. Let us do a few more things. First thing I'm going to do is a function. I'm going to, we can still leave that connected. We'll connect this to a function. We'll get rid of that. I'm going to use a function to parse that out and figure out whether I've got a state or not. We'll come back to that. After that, I'm going to do a switch. I'm going to deal with a case of not having detected a state and having detected a state. Let's go configure that. I'm going to create a new variable on the message property called state, which is either going to be the name of the state that I've detected or null if I did not. So the first one, topmost, will be if it's null, and then otherwise. Okay, so we've got two outcomes there. The bottom one is the one where I did detect a state. So in that case, let's tell the user we're going to be routing their call to that state. Let's say, please hold while we connect you to our call center in. Now we need to insert the name of the state, and we can use JavaScript string interpolation here, if you're familiar with that. So we're going to just go to insert, and the name of the state there. And then we will simply connect them using a dial. And we're going to connect them to, now I'm using SIP users, so I'm going to do that. It's a variable called phone. And I'm going to put a caller ID, message.from. And we're good to go. Again, end everything with a webhook out. Now really the only thing left is this function. This function here that I need to parse out. So let me get that. It's simply going to look like this. So I'm going to initialize a property to null of message.state, and then I'm going to see if I've got speech.alternatives and if it's an array. And if it's an array with entries greater than 1, and then I'm going to parse out the confidence in the transcript. I'm going to get the states, and I'm going to try to find a state name that matches the transcript. Or I'm using includes in case someone says I'm calling from California. And then if I found one and the confidence is greater than 50%, I'm going to set those. Message.state and message.phone. Again, message.state is used in the say and message.phone used in the dial subsequently. This looks a little weird without a name, so let's just say our state request. All right, we can deploy that. Now we should have our little dial by state working.
In order to route your call properly, please say the name of the U.S. state you are calling from.
California.
Please hold while we connect you to our call center in California.
And the call comes through. All right, that's how easy it is to build speech-driven apps in JamBones. In a future video, I'll show you how to use Dialogflow and integrate with Dialogflow for more complex applications. As always, any questions, hit me up at daveh@dractio.org. Visit the GitHub or the docs page at docs.jambones.org. Thanks, and have a great day.